Hello guys and welcome back. This is Pete Dahlgren. We're building the Mirror Smiles F86, and as you can see, I'm working on the hatch seams, and basically this is what I'm looking for. Now this is going to take a little bit more sanding to do, but basically what I've done one side here, and I've done a little bit of fill in here to fill a little bit of low spots and get before priming and actually making the hatch actually disappear. Now a lot of you guys know I've done a lot of this, but this is where I was kind of at, and this has to be blocked. This is 3 coats of resin on here, and what I've done is I went through and I T20'd it. I just sanded it wet with some T20, and then I got in and actually have I'm using a Bondo glazing putty, which is catalyzed, and if I didn't roll the tube up I could show you what it was. But anyway, I got this is a one tube on one side. It doesn't go very far, and it is actually this stuff here. It's but it's the stage 2, and this does have actually a catalyzed the cream hardener that goes with it. And I use this exclusively on things before I do paint and priming because I have really good results with it. And it accepts primer amazingly well. And this is something I'm getting ready to do because I'm getting ready to actually go ahead and primer this, the front fuselage. I got some more sanding to do, but I'm not going to go too overly crazy with it. Now, I've got a little touch-ups to do and stuff like that in here. Nothing real super major, but this is the effect I'm going for, is to make that look and get these as tight as possible. So I'm going to keep working it because I want these not, and this will go for every one of my surfaces that I'm doing, guys. I am very, very picky about this, and I want those seams, that line, to disappear. It'll look like it's supposed to be there. And it is, of course, but the thing is that when you lift up these lines, they're going to be fairly sharp. Now what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to take some T20 and lightly touch these just to get a little bit of a reveal in it, and then I will incorporate a lot of these. Now, I don't know if you can see it or not. I've done a little bit of sanding in here and a little bit of blocking to get this ready for primer. And I'm just using 220 wet. And what I will do is I'll put 3 big coats of the 2K primer. I've got some hand sanding. This is just runoff from up there. But if you look on the model I'm using, what I'm using to do this, there's the first panel line is actually this one right here. And what I'm kind of doing is I'm going to set this level on here. I'm going to shoot this line all the way down to here. And I'll just use a piece of tape. And then, of course, up there where the hood comes down, it'll be the first 2 lines. And what I'm trying to do on here is establish where the guns are going to go. And so I want to do that next. And basically what I'm doing here, I love this thing. I love that latch. It just is so freaking nice. But anyway, if you haven't seen that, look at the other video and I'll show it. I've already showed enough of that. Right now I'm just getting ready to get everything ready to start primering this so I can start laying out. And then I'm going to check up I'm going to glue some sandpaper on a dowel, and then I'm going to do a pilot hole, and then I will just run a straight deal and eyeball it with a drill, check up some sandpaper, and just ream in where these guns go, and they will be right around in here. But in order to establish that, I got my reference right here, and as you can see, we're looking very, very close here. And if you go in there, you can actually see that does actually drop down like that. And this is actually, that part right there is actually this little bit right here. And once this is in, if you look on the model, it actually does roll in there. But once you set your canopy down on it, you're actually going to see even more of what this is. And once this is all glued down, and I put this all in here, this will be the first panel line. I'll shoot it straight down from here, and it'll look like it'll go from here to here and across. And from this panel line in here, if you're looking on your reference of, when you look at your reference on there where the guns actually are, they actually come from about right in here. It's back a little bit, not by very much. It's only about, it actually is about right here. And that gun should come down, and it should be about right down into about, it should be about right into here. And so what I'm looking to do is make sure that these seams are as tight as possible in here to avoid seeing a bunch of any of the voids. And you want to make sure that you're actually getting it straight in there, because we're going to be putting a little bit more filler right around the deal. And I will be doing some body work on this. This is beautiful work. This is from Magiro, and but we are going to, that actually needs to come up a little bit. But anyway, once this is all done, then what I'll do here is I will actually fill and Bondo this in to get this smooth as well in there. And these are all very gradual done, and I'm just lightly sanding. This stuff sounds amazingly easy, no pressure, and it's very good for doing these details, especially if you're doing some raised panels and you're not adding a lot of weight. So I would strongly suggest, if anybody wants to look at that, that is something definitely to do. And then we'll be in primer here in a few days. Another thing that I do have is I didn't want to have to do it yet, but I'm going to have to, and that's actually cutting it out. And what I'll use for that is actually my Dremel, and this one's new. But I do have these drum sanders to come up there and kind of touch this stuff up. We've got lots of cutting wheels and specialty things to do a lot of this, so it's just something to do. Another way you can do it too is, if you really want to, you can drill these out like that. But the reality of it is because this actually does come all the way down in here a little bit, I built that in. And I'll just take the drum sanders and come up there and tree this up a little bit. And I'll do the same thing in here. I will just take and hog it out a little bit and get these where they're there. And then I can cut these windows out. I'm not going to cut them all the way out. I'm just going to cut around, leaving enough material in here so I can reach through it and actually glue it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this around and get this. This will keep this rigid enough so I can get it bonded to the other frame, which I need the fiberglass sitting right over there. Now, I've got a lot of time before I actually see the cockpit kit, but I don't want to glue that on completely. I just want to get everything to where it's sitting and everything is kind of fine-tuned and done. So right now all I'm doing is just sanding and doing some other filling, getting some low spots and this and that. And it's like I told you guys, when I glassed it, it looked amazing and this and that, but it's like I told you, it was not right, completely done. But what I do want to do is come back and look into all these areas and get all this stuff to look as good and as blended out as possible. And there's a lot of sanding and it takes time, but you're going to get this result. And that's just one little bit there. but that is what I don't want. So I'm gonna have to come up there and do both sides of this, and it took me a little bit of time, not a lot, but this all needs to be blocked out and sanded and kind of done, because when I cut this loose, it kind of did what it did. And so anyway, all these parts and pieces and things like that, and not having everything at once is there. Another thing is I will do the same thing in here. So this is just from going from having a big gaping gap that's ugly to having something that looks very well done. And the primer will actually solidify this and make this even nicer. So don't be afraid to use a little bit of spot putties and stuff like that on what you're building. And then it's just going to make your finish just that much better. And I will be doing the same thing to the inside of this tunnel and getting that all cleaned up and ready to go. So I'm just doing little things, and then we'll start getting ready over there on this other part and start getting that glassed, and then this can be started and actually done in modules. We'll start getting the fins and all that stuff pretty much. We're going to start getting the little things done, and then I'll primer this twice and actually block it out, and then you'll start seeing the magic happen. We'll start panel lines and start getting other things done. And again, this is the hardened version of the Bondo, and this is spot putty, and it's more or less like primer. It's very thin, it's not aggressive like regular Bondo is, and it's really runny, and that's what you want. You want it to go in there, it just sands off like nothing. It sands easier in balsa, and that's where we're going to start getting all these transitions and all this stuff looking good, and all these edges looking just beautiful. And it's one of these deals where it's just for the aesthetic purposes of making everything look great and perfect and beautiful. This is what it is. It looks like hell right now, but I can assure you that once I get the primer on it, you will all agree that this is just one of the necessary evils. Now, I've had a couple of guys that have asked me about just priming and then filling over the top. Well, you can do that, but you're going to waste a lot of primer. And the thing is about using the 2K high build primer on this is that any of the little spots and stuff like that that are actually in here is what will happen is I'm actually going to get them and get them all completely filled. And once I get all that done, then I can kind of come back and touch them up a little bit if need be. But I really prefer, before I go out there and spray a $30 can of primer on something, is to have as much as the $8 filler put on this and getting it as straight as possible. And then using that filler primer for doing exactly that, all the fine tuning. Because even though I've done all this, guys, once I primer this, and I know a lot of you guys know this, is that there's just, I know you guys know this, and the thing is that when you primer this thing for the first time you sand it, you're going to see all your low spots. Well, I'm going to show you guys the guide coating and how I do that, and hopefully I got this straight enough to where I only have to primer it with one heavy coat once and then come back and get it ready for the panel lines. And we're not putting a lot of weight on this. Now we're going to be sanding off a lot more than what we're going to be putting on. And I use epoxy paint, so I want a really good 2K primer under there to support it, to where I don't have to put a lot of weight in the sealers and everything else. And then I'll be using Model Masters paints for details and little things like that. And this is where a lot of the stuff comes in and actually starts going. And starts making it look like it's supposed to. So, got a lot of little things and pieces that I want to fix up on this, and then I'll pick these parts up, I'll prime them, start getting little parts and painted. Once this is done, then I can start doing panel lines on it. And believe it or not, with the two-piece, I can do this front while I'm waiting for the other one to get ready to go, and I can put panel lines in just about anything else and touch them up later. It's really not that big of a deal. And so we got wings and all kinds of things, fins, wings, parts, ailerons. We still got flaps and stuff that need to be done. There's a lot of glass work to do. So, and then now that we have all the parts for the wings, we will start clearing that area off, and then I will start putting quarter-inch strips on that, letting them cure up while I'm working on stuff over there. So I'm gonna be showing a very busy shop here, and getting things really to the point where they need to be. And to me, this looks so much nicer, and I'll be able to put panel lines in there. And when the thing is actually painted and camouflaged, a lot of these lines are going to disappear. And I've told you guys about this quite a bit, and this is how I do it. There's other ways to do it. This is just how I do it. And it takes just time and a little bit of patience. And again, guys, keep your comments coming, like, subscribe, everything else. And this is just what makes, and again, that was just a one-handed, but anyway. Once I come back in here again, guys, I will come back and touch this up a little bit. And that's just a little bit in there. And then I'll just completely touch a little bit on this rail just to make sure that that stays there, and then I'll primer all that. And this little bit of filler is not going to hurt anything, and it won't come off like you might think it would. But it does require a little bit of sanding here and there and there. And it's just, you want to make sure you're done. And you just want to make sure that you're doing this more to be more appeasing to yourself. If you're just going to fly your plane, that's one thing. But, you know, I like hanger flying. I think it's great. So, anyway, once these go back in and they lock in, this is so freaking awesome. I love that thing. That is just, this latch is strong enough to pick everything up by what it is, and good God, actually that can come out of there now. And again, guys, this was a temporary brace. It was just tack glued so that I could get in and actually put the real stuff in there. This is not a structural piece. This is just something I glued in there to keep this thing from twisting, and doing that until I got everything else done. So this was the main reason for putting that in. I wanted to keep this straight while everything kind of glued up. And so far, we're looking really good. And we'll get all this, we're just moving right along and going to keep going. Yeah, you see the nose. That nose looks really cool. I just love that. I mean, once you get up there and you look at it the side, if you get it right and you spent your time and sanded all that stuff in, guys, man, it's a very rewarding thing to start seeing your jet come alive. And I've seen some of your pictures lately too. A lot of you guys are sending, and good God, some of you guys are amazing. I mean, you guys are really building your hearts and souls into these aircraft, and I love seeing them. And I also really want to thank a lot of you guys. Chris, especially, Chris has brought up a lot of really good points. And I just want you guys to understand and know that I am 100% on board with everything. And if you guys have something and some advice and you got things to say, please do say it. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to. I just build the way I know how to build. And there's other things. And it's like Carton Alexander, he's brought up some really cool, innovative ideas for this thing. Guy's a very talented, wonderful machinist. I've actually really enjoyed talking to him. I actually FaceTimed him the other day and I had a ball. Just amazing craftsmanship, and showing me, I love seeing you guys' planes and what you guys have got going on, and taking an interest in some of the things that I've actually have brought up, trying to figure things out for this jet to make it just that much more special. So again, this is a major thank you to all of you, and we're starting to get closer to primer, and then the detailing and things on this jet are going to get real fast. I mean, I've had an awful lot of help, a lot of very good compliments, a lot of very informative things, talking to a lot of you guys. And I really thoroughly enjoy the input and the camaraderie of this hobby. And you know what? I have gotten kind of famous for this lately. And the one thing about it is that I just want to thank all of you for the successes in that. And when we go to Top Gun, I mean, I'm not going to go and kick everybody's butt. That's very far from that. But what I am going to do is actually be a big part of this community and enjoy the camaraderie and get to meet a lot of the people that have actually designed and built these things, to really get to know and start building more. I want to thank Mears personally again for all the great support with this airplane. If you guys are dealing with Mears, you guys know he's just a prince of a guy. He just really is very into what he's done. He's very dedicated. And, you know, it's just one of these things. You know, I live in the United States, and some of the things that go on in this country are just a little bit more than some people can swallow at times. But I'm reassured that by finding common ground with the builders and the RC enthusiasts from all over the country and the world, that if we can find a way to coexist and actually become friends, then I see no reason why the rest of the world can't find common ground, whether it be music or something else. It's all it takes in order to, you know, have peace amongst our people. And I'm talking about the human race more than I am anything. You know, it's just, I love people. I love the world. But, you know, see a lot of hatred towards a lot of other people. And life's too short to live like that. And that's why I always say I'll see you in the funny papers. Because if you're not laughing, people, you're not living. And, you know, we gotta just, you know, keep plugging and living our lives and being who we are. And that's the human race. And that's enough of that. So, guys, keep watching, like, subscribe, tell your friends. God bless you. And I'll see you in the funny papers.